his magic wand and said, "This is what you're going to do."
But you had a tremendous influence with your aunts and your dad, and you're going to private school, to Catholic school.
Well, maybe that had a lot to do with what I do now, but it's not anything that said, okay, I want to do it. I never told myself, this is what I want to do. I was always led in that direction. And the way I play piano now, it's not, it's a God-given gift. It's not anything that I actually sit down and say, okay, I'm going to play it this way. Because I do a lot of improvising,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not easy.
It's hard.
It's something that you build yourself into, and you will never hear me play the same piece, a piece the same way. Never. I never play it the same way. I always get direction from somewhere, and I either do it this way or that way, or even with the choir that I'm working with, I may or may not help them with the melody of the thing, but they're so good that they will sing what's written, and I will play what I feel is in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you can understand that.
No, I can. I think you improvise very, very well, and you just shift gears when you need to shift gears, and you accommodate people that are helping you or working with you in providing the music that you need to provide at that point. So, yeah, you...
Well, in your own experience in being a leader of the community, there are some things that you affect people in a certain way that you don't even realize yourself that you've done that. And so sometimes I feel that way myself.
Well, this is why I wanted to interview you about your dad. Because your dad, like I mentioned at the first part of this interview, that he was a tremendous influence to our South Colton community. And can you remember who some of his friends were?
Very little of it. I started writing some names down, and the only reason I know this is because he was involved. My dad was involved in fundraising for the church, for the new church.
The new church was
in San Salvador.
a project of whom?
Father Luque.
Junior?
Yes, he's the one that started the idea of building a new building for San Salvador.
On the same location that we had the old church.
Yes.
On 7th and L Street?
L Street.
Okay.
And he did it without diocesan approval. He did it on his own. And before they knew it, before the diocese knew it, the church was already built.
Well, I think he had to, because do you remember the experiences that Father Valencia, when he had,
Oh, yeah.
when they had raised the money,
Mm-hmm.
and the diocese took the money and used it
Exactly.
for other stuff. So
Yeah, that was the Diocese of San Diego.
right. Yeah.
Not San Diego.
Yeah. My mom or grandmother said that La Catedral allá en San Diego tiene todo el dinero de South Colton.
Oh, yeah, and that was very true. And when the bishop came from San Diego, he was treated like royalty.
Yes.
Absolutely, because Father Valencia, that was his bishop.
So your dad was instrumental in raising funds to build a new church.
He was part of the group,
Uh-huh.
of the committee that raised the funds. And he was so detailed in his record keeping that he put down the name of every person that donated money, whether it was just for whatever, or whether it was for vestments or for windows or for chairs or for anything that was put into the church. And they donated, he kept detailed records of everything.
What year was this, Terry?
'Cause
66 or something like that, Henry?
It was, it seems to me it was like the late 60s, early 70s.
So it's when the
Maybe-
60s then?
Maybe it was finished
Yeah.
around.
The only thing I don't, and I have the dates.
Uh-huh.
That's, because he dated everything.
So your dad was very detailed in who donated to build that new church?
Oh, everybody.
Uh-huh.
Everybody in South Colton.
Did you keep the records?
Yes, I have the records.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be...
Oh,
Frank,
yes, I have
we better
I have
see if
all
we
the
can
records.
put those records in the Colton Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have those records. I have the records of Tula's involvement in trying to not resurrect, that's a bad word, clean up the Alamasa Cemetery, because she was involved in the original group that was created in order to do that. And I have those records. So yeah, I have all that information.
We have to talk some more, Terry.
Well, it's been very enlightening for me. And I also have in my memory my dad's job at the Portland Cement Company, and he was fired from there.
Why?
I think you know. Do
No,
you
I
know?
don't know.
He was fired. There was an accident at the cement plant, because they had these skinny little roads, and one of the trucks overturned and somebody was killed. It was a worker was killed. And at that time, my father was beginning to get involved in unionizing.
Mm.
And of course, the cement plant didn't appreciate that. So they essentially blamed him for the accident and fired him. But in those times, because people knew what was going on, they knew what caused it and who was at fault. And I honestly believe there was such fear in the life of those men working there. It was their livelihood, and they didn't want to lose it. So they didn't back him up, And he told my mom about it, and my mother told me. And she did mention a couple of names, but that's not going to serve any purpose now. But in any case, I think at that point in time is when his life changed, and because it changed the family life as well. Up until that time, he was very much involved with the family. We used to. He used to take us visiting some of his friends. We used to visit the Alvarez quite often, the Castorenas, and other people. We used to go on picnics. It was a community type activity. But after that, he changed a lot.
Change in what way, Terry?
Well, I'm sure people had mentioned he was an alcoholic, and he started drinking quite a bit. And I'm sure there are stories that even I don't know about, other things that would happen. But he started putting his energies more and more into union activities.
Mm-hmm.
But also that involved having to meet a lot of people and going to different places. And I think things just got out of hand for him. And so whether he wanted to control it or not, I don't know. But anyway, it changed our home life.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, a lot of this stuff I'm just finding out. And it's helping me understand who I am, who the family is, who he was, what he did. He helped many, many people, even at home on the weekends. He would have people just coming by every hour, on the hour help. He would help people with immigration papers, taxes, letters of references to parole boards, everything. I mean, he was there for them, and he never took payment. Whatever he gave them as payment, I don't know, but I know that they helped him in a lot of ways. And he was that way when he worked for the union. The men at the union, he helped them with all the same kinds of things. And talking to my sister Clara, because she was there quite a bit, and she saw everything that was going on and what he did for them and what he did for the union.
But you mentioned that some of the union members didn't have money to pay for their monthly dues, and your dad would cover them.
Well, I think somebody probably said that, and I wouldn't be surprised. He instituted health benefits for the union, and I'm not sure about retirement, but they had a retirement. If he had any instrument in that, I don't know. He never took advantage of the retirement, but he did take advantage of the health benefits. And every time I called the union for something, they knew immediately they would help me. Not that I called often, but Clara used to go quite a bit. My sister Carol sometimes would go. to the Union Hall, the one downtown, and also when they built the new one over there by the Iron Show. I was not a frequent visitor. I was probably too old,
Mhm.
going to high school and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And my brother wasn't involved at all either. So
Mhm. Mhm. Do you remember some of his friends? Like, was he a friend of, you mentioned Pete Lukey.
well, yeah, I took some of these names from the documents for the church, and they're names that I remember from even before, outside of that. And there was Pascual.
Pascual Oliva, who
Yeah.
was he, I think he was mayor of Colton.
Yes, he was, but not at the time
Uh-huh.
when I knew him. There was Milton Noriega.
Milton Noriega owned the
From
Sombrero,
the Sombrero,
the
yeah.
Sombrero restaurant.
There was Salvador Pimentel, who was our neighbor across the street. There was Salvador Robledo,
The box, the
boxing.
the
person.
boxer,
Mhm.
yeah, the boxer.
And then,
Sabas
the
Obrero.
barbecue person too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, excellent meat. It was very tasty. Tony Hernandez.
Tony Hernandez, who Korean veteran.
Mhm.
Korean
There was
veteran.
Jesus Zarate. Do you remember who he was?
Jesus?
Zarate.
No lo conozco.
Yeah, he was probably one of the younger men. There was Nacho Cabrera. He
Nacho
was,
Cabrera, World War II veteran, and he owned a barber shop
right next
on
to my
7th
aunt's-
Street, 7th and O.
on N, originally on N,
Uh-huh.
and then he moved. There was Ray Abril, of course, and then
Was it junior or senior?
senior,
Senior, okay. The Boy Scout master.
yes.
Mhm.
And then there was, I can't remember, I wrote the name down, but I can't read it, Lena Mesa or something, someone like that. Yeah, and there was the owner of the Mexico Cafe. Her name was Nena. And he worked.
Negrete?
Negrete, yes. He worked with her, there was a law, and I forget, it was a law, let's see. It was against liquor. And they were gonna be limiting, I think, how much liquor could be served at bars and restaurants. And so they got together, there was a group of business owners from San Bernardino that got together, and they were going to form against this law. There was a jury law or something like that, do you recall?
No,
Those-
I don't.
Land. Anyway, those are the names that came out when I was going through my paperwork.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So those were kind of members of organizations that he belonged to?
Well, yeah, he was very much involved in a youth or a young adult group called the ASET. You're gonna have to bear with me.
No, take your time.
Oh, it was the dram shop liability law. Do you remember that law?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was in 1977, and it was there was an organization created called the Food, Beverage, and Spirits Association, and then Negrete and my dad helped build it because they were going to be. It was a political organization because the dram shop liability law had to do with limiting liquor, the selling of liquor. And so he was with that, and then. It was the ACJM, it was the Asociación Católica de Jóvenes Mexicana. And it was a group of young men, I think they were in their 20s and late 20s. They were involved in various church activities and they did fundraising. And it was about, I'd say about 10 or 12 men, young men. I have a picture of them, but I don't know the names of all of them. But if you showed it around, they would be able to name all of them.
Could we borrow it?
Yeah, I will.
I'll sign my name in blood.
Make a copy of it probably,
I
or
will-
scan it.
Yeah, I will bring. Well, my aunt Kuka, she liked to take a lot of pictures. I found an album, and the pictures are about like this small, but they're you can still tell who's in them.
And when you scan some of those small ones, they
Mhm.
enlarge very nicely.
Do they?
Yes.
I'm not really quite.
You can get them, quite big.
Oh, okay. I have a lot of pictures of the fiestas, the platform for the fiestas, some of the parade. Well, a lot of home pictures as well, but
Yeah.
a lot of the men or young men that would visit the house during the war.
Mhm.
You know, my father and his brothers and sisters were orphaned at a very young age.
I didn't know that, Terry.
Yes, by the time when Kuka was born, their dad passed away just a few months after that.
Mhm.
So, and the mother had already died, so they were all alone, and so they used to have a lot of fun. But my grandmother, or my mom's mom, used to keep an eye on them because she lived right next door. But they were always very welcoming of other young people that were having problems at home. They could stay with them, they would help them out. They were always, that was their way. They just did it, it was just who they were.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but I forgot where I was heading, so you're gonna have to remind me. Anyway, I get caught in these little, stories, side stories.
Yeah, I asked you about your dad's friends, and do you remember? Last name was Ochoa, Raúl Ochoa.
Mhm. Yes, I do.
He was also part of the Progresista group, and also helped your dad do many of the activities there in the community.
Probably, I don't remember. The name Progresistas sounds familiar to me. Did it have anything to do with Trabajadores Unidos?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all right.
Mutual Aid Society.
Yes.
And they were part of the Congress of Community Clubs.
They must have been, but they weren't on the letterhead, so, I didn't, was it on the letterhead that I mentioned them?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
And tell us about you. You grew up in South Colton. You went to school where?
My brother and I were the first ones that went to St. Bernardine from the first grade. And talking about safety issues, we used to get on the bus on 8th Street. And it was the bus that came from LA, you know how the red bus that used to come. We would go by ourselves, unchaperoned, and we would end up on East Street on San Bernardino and walk through town to school. And we did it all alone. We were 6 and 7 years old at the time.
Wow.
And we never had chaperones. It wasn't necessary. But we went through high school, grade school and high school. And we were not, at least for myself, I was not part of growing up in South Colton, other than the Girl Scouts and the Fiestas Patrias. And so I didn't make any lasting friendships in South Colton. There was friends like in the Girl Scouts and things like that. But there was a certain distance between the other kids and myself. And I was very quiet anyway, so anything anybody said, I took it personally. But anyway, I wasn't an outgoing child.
And then you graduated
So,
from which high school?
Well, let me finish.
Uh-huh.
So I was kind of lonely in that respect, so I kept to myself. But what was your question?
Oh, high school graduation.
I graduated from St. Bernardine, and it was a good education. My brother graduated from that, and so did Carol and Clara. And when I graduated, I saw it as an opportunity to leave home, so I did. And I went to Los Angeles to live with my aunt. I worked there for about 5 years, and I got married. And then I even went to Japan for a year. But, came back and have lived in various places. But my work history, I worked in LA, and I worked in San Bernardino. I mean, it was just a normal existence until I started working for the church. And that's where